Well, greetings YouTubers, and welcome to the long-awaited Part 3 episode of the hand-built Art Deco Amp video series. The good news is it's all finished and resting peacefully under this sheet. But before the big unveiling, we need to go back in time and see how it got into the condition that it is now. I can't resist teasing you a little. There's the corner, but that's all you're going to get to see until we've gone through step by step to see how this amp was completed. In the first video, we watched as the cabinet and chassis were crafted from a rather crude piece of hot rolled steel plate. And in the second video, we saw how the chassis was finished, wired, and briefly tested. And now in this video, we're going to see how the cabinet is finished and how it and the chassis are combined to form the amplifier that you see, or almost see, beneath the sheet. So if that sounds like a decent way to spend about 30 minutes, then please sit back and get ready to watch the final creation of the Art Deco amp. I started the final painting of the cabinet. I've used 1000 grit to get a really fine smooth finish on a couple coats of the flat black primer. I tried several tests with a gold base coat, silver base coat, and amazingly enough the flat black seemed to work best with the blue metallic lacquer that I've chosen to paint this with. Now it's time to apply a nice smooth uniform flat black base coat for the metallic blue lacquer top coat. Now we have a nice smooth uniform satin black base coat in preparation for the dark blue metallic top coat. Since I anticipate a lot of questions about the materials I use for the paint job, I thought I'd go into some detail about them. First off, for the base coat, I use this Duplicolor. It's a lacquer paint, and it's number BGM0393 dark blue metallic. This stuff is absolutely fabulous. I love it. They have a really wide choice of colors. It's first class paint, highly metallic, and it's just an excellent product. And then second, against my better judgment, after all my rants about Rust-Oleum paint, I took a recommendation from an individual I used to trust and used the Rust-Oleum Custom Lacquer. 50% more durable, gloss clear. Now this stuff goes on really well, and as you'll see, it polishes out beautifully, but like all Rust-Oleum paint, and probably just about all spray can paint, it doesn't really set up to be as hard as you would like. Several days after painting, if you were to press your thumb into the paint hard for about 10 seconds, you could still leave a little bit of an imprint. So this worked, as you will see. It turns out beautiful, but as far as being 50% more durable, it's still not quite durable enough in my book. Well, here's the finished product. As you can see, nice and glossy, excellent metallic properties, and actually a fairly smooth finish. I'm kind of nervous about handling it too much while it's drying, but I think you can get the idea that it is a nice finish, I think. Okay, I'll do a walk around here so you'll see all surfaces. Seems nice and glossy, and hopefully very durable. Here's the all-important front view. Here's the fan inlet end. Here we see Jack sending some email to his friends in Catalonia. You never know what what programs are going to be accessed when Jack walks across your computer keyboard. Now that the lacquer has dried for a couple days, it's time to do the rubbing out procedure, which is actually a little nerve-wracking. It's a little scary. We're going to take fine sandpaper and go over this entire surface until it's uniformly hazy. We'll focus on flaws like that, and any other imperfections or roughness in the surface. Generally it's caused by overspray. When you paint the top or the side, a little bit of overspray will stick to the other side. So now I will wet sand this surface with fine sandpaper until there are no visible imperfections. It will be uniformly hazy after I do that. Now the scariest part of this is while you're working on that clear coat, if you hit the edges too hard with the sandpaper, you'll cut right through the paint and essentially ruin the paint job. So you have to be very careful. What we want to do is make a pretty good paint job a lot better, not a lot worse. So you have to be super careful. It is a bit nerve-wracking, but it's worth it in the end. Okay, now we've achieved a uniform haziness. There are still some tiny little depressions that you pretty well have to live with because the metal surface was not perfect, but this is just smooth as glass here where it's been sanded, and now it's time to use some finer sandpaper and then polishing compound. Okay, now I've gone over it with the 1500 grit, and it's just sort of a light fog, and there are no visible scratches anywhere. Step one of the polishing procedure will be to use rubbing compound, and we'll get sort of a nice subtle sheen. Next we'll use a polishing compound. Now you'll see the difference on the right side with the polishing compound, on the left side with simply the rubbing compound. See, we're starting to get a really nice lacquer gloss here. It's a much more subtle shine than you'll get with acrylic urethanes and things like that. It's just so labor intensive that nobody wants to do this anymore. And my final step is this Blue Magic metal polish cream, believe it or not. But as you can see, you end up pretty much with a blue mirror finish after rubbing it with this. The final step will be automotive car wax and a nice buffing. Finally, a nice coat of Meguiar's automotive paste wax, and we end up with a durable finish that has that really pretty subtle lacquer gloss to it. It's almost like it's still wet or a blue mirror. Now I do this by hand. There are electric polishers you can use, but on a small device like this, I really think that the hand polishing is the way to go. Now this isn't perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but let's take a look back at the metal it was made from and see if there's much difference. Remember that old hot rolled mill scaled sheet metal we started out with? Well, I think the end result is definitely an improvement. I hope you agree. Like I said, it's just like a blue mirror. Now it's time to continue the process to all the other surfaces of the amp cabin. Now the part I've really been looking forward to is the addition of those brushed aluminum strips to the side. Very Art Deco, if I do say so myself. Next step is to install the cooling fan, and several viewers suggested that I make it blow outward as an exhaust fan rather than inward, because then it can draw in cool air from the ventilation screens. So that's the way I've set it up. There's the outside view with the recessed oval head stainless steel screws holding the screen and the fan in place. Now it's time for the brushed aluminum emblem and the pilot light. You notice that I went with a much larger pilot light than I had in part 1 and a blue jewel. Also, it appears that I have the emblem on upside down compared to the way it was in part 1, but I think that the other way it just reminded me too much of a Thunderbird car emblem. This way it has sort of a nice Art Deco look, and it presents this long lower edge it just sort of goes better with the line of dials that is just below it. Next, I loosen the 5 nuts that hold the pots in place and that front chassis flange, and push the pots back so that the shafts will not interfere when the cabinet is slid down in the front. And I loosen the input jack and tuck it back into the. Then the cabinet slides down over the chassis. the pots are pushed back through at the front, and the dial rings are added, and then the nut and washer is put on each, and they are lightly snugged up. They're not tight yet because I'm going to have to center the bottoms of all of the dials. Next, the two fan wires are routed through the hole in the chassis and come out through the bottom, and they'll be soldered over here to the 6-volt DC tabs on the terminal strips. Next, I solder the two 6-volt AC wires to the terminals of the pilot light, which is attached to the front of the cabinet. Next, I wire up the 4 ohm and 8 ohm speaker outputs, and then push them through the rear of the cabinet here and secure them with the nuts and washers. Like so, and then tuck the wires back in the corner so that they're out of sight. Next, we align all the dials so they are absolutely vertical, and then we'll install the new chicken head knob. And naturally, the chicken heads are in a nice matching navy blue color. Well, it's pretty near finished except for the crowning glory, which is a really nice heavy brushed stainless steel handle. It reminded me a lot of the ones they used on the old Electar amps back in the early 40s. Okay, so I'm going to install it now up here on the screen, and then we'll see what we think. Well, here it is outdoors in the sun, where you can get a better idea of the colors and finish. I'll go all the way around all 4 sides. I haven't put in the base plate yet or the rear screen because I'm going to be switching tubes and doing some testing. Here's the ventilation fan side, rear view without the screen, so you can get a good look inside. And here's the view with the 3 aluminum trim strips. This is probably my favorite view. It has the trim strips, control panel, handle, and the very obvious Art Deco-ness of the shape of the metal cabinet. Well, I guess now it's time to finish the testing, install the final set of tubes, put in the floor plate and the rear screen, and get a guitar and see how this beast sounds. Well, it's about midnight. I couldn't resist coming out in the workshop to take a look at the amp, see if it looks different at night. I also thought it'd be kind of fun to light it up and see how it looks. I couldn't get any good images out in the workshop, so I brought it in the house, put it on a radio in the corner of the bedroom, and was surprised to see that really neat screen pattern that it casts up on the wall. The indicator light looks real nice, I think, and all in all, I think it could be used as a night light, so you could play yourself to sleep. I was a little concerned that the handle would look strange being off-center as far as the top of the amp, but it's perfectly centered with the control panel, and also it's perfectly balanced because it's more to the right side, and that's where the power transformer is. So the center of balance is right about at the center of the handle. I can't resist. One last sweep before I go in and have sweet dreams about the little Vibrolux. Well, let's take one last look at the circuit before I install the base plate. And there's the floor installed with the 4 rubber feet. Here's the view with that rear screen in place. It just slides in through grooves in the cabinet, and then it's secured with 2 sheet metal screws. Alright, we've got the little Art Deco amp plugged in here and warming up. I hope you like the color of the little indicator light here. I put another blue lens behind this one to really give it a nice, deep, rich blue color. To start off, I'm going to demonstrate each of the controls and what they can do, and then we will play a couple tunes to this jewel and see how it sounds. I think it's worth noting that you hear absolutely nothing from the fan or from the speaker This jewel is dead quiet. Let's start off with power first. I'm going to turn it up to barely 2 out of 10. Which is going to be loud enough, I think, for this demonstration. Next, let's demonstrate the tone control. It's on full bass now. Now we'll go to a neutral straight up position. And then to full treble. We're getting into Telecaster country there. Let's go back to about 4 out of 10. I think that gives us really good bass and real good clarity. Next, let's try the tremolo depth. We'll go up to about 5 out of 10. And for all you hounds out there, let's go 10 out of 10. Now let's try the tremolo speed. Recall that I slowed it down by changing one of the 0.01 microfarad caps in the oscillation loop to 0.02. Okay, right now we're as slow as it goes. Here's 5 out of 10. It's about 7 or 8 out of 10. And finally 10 out of 10. Let's go back to like 1 or 2 out of 10. I think that's just about perfect. Now let's try the negative feedback control. I've cranked up the guitar volume a little bit because the more you drive the amp, the more the negative feedback control will be evident. Okay, right now we're at maximum negative feedback. Now that's going to suppress distortion and increase our headroom. Just a trace of breakup. Now let's go to minimum negative feedback and see how that sounds. A whole world of difference. The lower feedback setting has a lot fuller tone, a lot more breakup. It just seems a lot more vivid to me. Now bear in mind, this is at about 2 on the volume control. Now just for fun, let's crank the amp up to like 5 out of 10 and try it with maximum negative feedback. Still not a lot of breakup. Now listen with minimum negative feedback. Quite a difference. Now let's try a little tremolo. We're at mid-range on the depth, slow speed, and a lot of negative feedback. Okay, now it's time to turn the guitar over to Jack and Olli. They've been practicing some tunes, and let's see what we think of them. Well, that's about it for this video series on the home-built Art Deco amp. I'm going to take a few seconds here to discuss the things about it I like and the things that I might do differently if I made another one of these. As far as the paint goes, I think the color and the finish are everything I could have hoped for. I think maybe if I had to do over again, I would extend this emblem out to about midway over each of these knobs. But other than that, I don't think I'd change a thing about the front. On the fan side here, once again, not much I changed. I probably would have colored that red wire in there black so you couldn't see it. The fan does exhaust, as was recommended by several viewers, and I really think that's the best way to go. As far as the rear goes, I really like the screen, and there's 2 sheet metal screws here if you want to go in and change tubes or dust or do anything you want inside. It's very easy to get into the cabinet. Okay, I like the alignment here of the 2 output jacks and the input jack. I'm still debating if I want to mark them like 4 ohm and 8 ohm. I think that would kind of detract from the cleanliness of the design. One thing I really hated was that cheesy on-off plate that you'll see in some previous pictures, which is now in the trash. And I got a nice old-fashioned type of plate that just simply says on and off without broadcasting it to the world. One thing I'm really not that thrilled with down here is the strain relief that I invented for the cord. It's kind of, I don't know, I think it's kind of hideous. I don't care for it. It's very effective, but looks-wise it's just not up to par. So I'm going to come up with some alternative for that. Then finally, the underside of the cabinet I'm very pleased with. It works well, it insulates, and you can access the entire circuit by just removing 4 machine screws. Try that in any other amp. Okay, if you want to go in and rebias, check resistor values, whatever, 4 screws and you're in there. And the top view, I like it. There's nothing about it I'd change. I've grown to really like the handle. I like the fact that the center of gravity, left and right, is right at the center of the handle. So as you're carrying this, and this only weighs 17.5 pounds, the whole thing, cabinet, transformers, the works, 17.5 pounds, which is about half what a normal combo amp would be. So you can tote it very comfortably with this handle. So now I want to thank all the Patreon patrons and PayPal contributors. We've made it through August here, advertising free, and I'm looking forward to more months and more contributors. Check the video description. You'll find links that will help you contribute to keep our channel afloat. Now it's time to head over for the final scenes in the car show. Thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I hope to see you again soon in future videos. Bye for now. Here's today's sleeper award. We'll look down the side of it here, and then we'll take a look at the engine. About the only thing this one's lacking is 4 doors to throw you off, okay, to make you think, oh God. Looks like somebody cleaned their garage and found this buried under all the luggage and other barbecue grills and junk. And then you take a look at that. This is one of those things that could be your greatest nightmare when you have your brand new Mustang, you pull up at the stoplight. This guy who's driving this thing gives you the evil eye, and that's the last you see of him. Wow. Very understated, very clever, almost demonic. I love it. And then last but not least, we have the What the Hell Is This Doing Here award winner. Fancy, pretty slick wheels, beautiful body and paint job, white leather interior. Look at this. It's gorgeous. But I think the elephant in the room is it just a Volkswagen? And I don't know. Look at the exhaust. I'm going to listen when they start this one up. The owner's nowhere around. But judging from the shifter, I'm thinking this is another sleeper that would get you at the stoplight and leave you, you know, in your underwear wondering what happened. Very neat, very nicely done. Here's the trunk of that Willis with the blown big block. I thought that was a parachute, but I think it's the guy's jacket. I like the tasteful hood prop too. Looks like a hoe handle, but really nice gas tank. Here's the other side of the driving compartment of that blown Willis. Looks like a low car shifter and heavily puckered seats. Pretty utilitarian looking inside, but I think I'd take it. Well, there goes the Willis, surging nicely. Looks like we're in the pits at the drag races. Well, somebody brought their project or something for sale on a trailer, and it looks pretty nice from here. Maybe I'll just go hook up to that trailer, take it for a ride. Here's a rear quarter view of that GMC Sprint. Boy, nice and straight. Very nice car.